Hey everyone, welcome back again to the channel here and to a new video. So today we are gonna do a monthly install, our monthly install of Arch with the March 2021 ISO, which just came out a few days ago. And in this video, we are going to install Arch Linux from scratch. And we are going to install it also with the BSPWM window manager. So I'm just going to go through the full installation from scratch until the basic install of BSPWM. I'm not going to install any polybar or any other things. It's just a basic install so that you can get started with it, basically. So without further ado, let's get going. If you've seen already some of my videos on the channel about Arch installs, you know already what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. And in this video, I'm going to actually install Arch with the root partition and the home partition as well. Some folks out there told me that it would be nice actually if sometimes I do installs with the home partition. So let's do it. And then we are going to install BSPWM as a window manager with a display manager as well. So let's get started here. As you can see, I already started up my virtual machine here. And the only thing I'm gonna do in here is, because it's a virtual machine, I'm gonna hit the E key on the keyboard to make sure that I give the video parameter to the bootloader, because otherwise it uses a lower resolution on my display. So I'm gonna type in here video equal 1920 per 1080, and then I can hit enter. So this ensures that the virtual machine picks up the correct resolution of my display. Otherwise, everything is a little bit blown up and not really focused. So it's going to take a second here to boot up the machine. And there you go. We are here now in the root ISO. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to check if I have an internet connection. So I'm going to type in IP space A. And of course, it's a virtual machine, so I have an IP there already on ENP1S0 interface with an IP ending with 231. Now, if you have Wi-Fi, you can type in now IWCTL to use the IWD utility. And usually the Wi-Fi adapter is called WLAN 0. If not, you will see it in the list here of the interfaces when we typed IP space A. And then you will type in here station station, there you go, WLAN 0, and then connect, and then the name of your network. You will be then asked for the passphrase for the network, and once you enter that, you'll be connected to your Wi-Fi as well. And when you are done with that, you just can type in here exit, and you will be back in the ISO. So let's clean up the terminal here, and I'm going to do two things before getting started with the install. The first one, I'm going to change my keyboard layout because I'm not using a US keyboard, as you probably already know. So I'm going to type in load keys. That's the command used to load a new key map. And my key map is DE_CH-Latin1 and hit enter. Now, if you don't know the key map, you can type in locale CTL and then list-keymaps, and you will see a list of key maps in there. If you will see a long list, and if you need to narrow it down, you can use the grep function with the pipe symbol, then grep and the connotation of your keyboard to find out the layout that you need to put in here. So this is done. So I'm going to increase now the font sizes so that you can also see better on the screen. So I'm going to type in set font and then ter for the terminus font, -132N for the size. And you can see it's easier to read for you and also for me, because my eyes are not getting younger. So next, let's refresh the servers by typing in pacman-syy. Now I'm not going to install Reflector because usually that's already installed. So I'm going to use this, but I'm going to run it once to get the fastest mirrors for my country here. So I'm going to type in Reflector -C and then Switzerland. This is the country where I am. And if you have a country with two words, you need to put them into single quotes. Then -A for the age of the server, so 6 hours in my case. --sort, we're going to sort them by speed, so rate. And then --save, I'm going to save this under /etc/pacman.d, if I get it ping correctly. And then /mirrorlist. There you go. So it's going to take a moment here to basically find the mirrors and sort them. There you go. So we can now refresh again one more time the servers. You can see it connecting quicker. So let's go ahead and clean up the terminal. Now it's time to go ahead and prepare our disk for the installation. So let's type in gdisk. So I'm using gdisk here because this is a UEFI system. and I need to have GPT label. So gdisk is the tool for that. If you have a legacy system, you would use probably fdisk, or you can use also cfdisk, of course, or cgdisk. That's another utility for that. And the disk name, actually, I can show it in the system with lsbrk. You can see VDA is the only disk I have here, and it's 100 gigabytes. So I'm going to type in gdisk/dev/VDA and hit enter. There you go. So I don't know why, since a couple of weeks, I get always this warning here that the partition table is garbage, probably, which is not a really nice sounding message. So I'm going to make sure that I'm going to create new entries here, basically. So I'm going to type in O and proceed with the writing to create new labels and write these things to the disks and proceed. There you go. And I pull up again the last command here, and now the warning is gone. So I don't know why that happens, but it's very easy. You just create new labels, write into the disks, and then restart the command, and then it's working. So first directory, let's create our EFI partition because it's a UEFI system. So N for new, partition number 1 default is fine. First sector is fine. The last sector defines the size. So for this partition, I'm going to go with 300 megs, so plus 300 M. And the code for this partition is EF00. That's the code for the EFI system partition, or the ESP, as you can see here on the line. Next, let's create our swap partition. So N for new, and partition 2 is fine, first sector is fine. So I'm gonna go for this machine with 1 gigabyte of swap. This machine has 8 gigabytes of RAM, and I think 1 gigabyte should be enough. Now, if you have lower RAM, like 2 gigabytes, maybe you should create definitely double in that. But with 8 gigs, you should be fine with 1, or 2 would be also okay, actually. So I'm going to type in 1G and hit enter. And the code for the swap is 8200. And now I'm going to create the root partition. So N for new, accept the defaults here also for the first sector. And for the home partition, I'm going to go with 35 gigabytes, which should be actually enough. So plus 35G. And the code is fine. It's going to be a Linux file system. And now I'm going to create the home partition. So N for new, and I'm going to accept all the defaults here and also the code for the Linux file system. Now we can write the changes to the disk. So W and confirm with Y. There you go. So let's type in lsbrk again. And you can see we have VDI 1, 2, 3, 4. So our partitions are there. Now, let's begin formatting those partitions. Let's begin with VDI 1. So let's type in mkfs.fat. So make a file system of a FAT file system type, because it's a EFI partition and it needs to be a FAT file system. -f32/dev/vda1. This is the partition path, and hit enter. Next, let's take care of our swap. So the first command, mkswap/dev/vda2, and hit enter. Now we can activate the swap. So swap on /dev/vda2 and hit enter. There you go. Now let's format our root partition. So mkfs. So we can use here any file system we want. I'm going to use ext4 here. So I'm going to type in ext4 and then /dev/vda3 and hit enter. And I'm going to repeat the same process for VDA4, so for the home partition. So I'm going to replace VDA3 with VDA4 and hit enter. There you go. So this is done. Let's clean up the terminal and type in again lsbrk. I like to have my partitions in front of me. And now we can mount all the partitions. So the first partition we are going to mount is the root partition VDA3, because that's where the system is going to be installed. So let's type in mount /dev/vda3 and then /mnt. That's the installation directory, and hit enter. Now let's mount also our boot partition. For that, we need to create the directories in the new system. So I'm going to type in mkdir-p because I want to create multiple directories at once. So /mnt, this is already existing. And the directories I'm going to create are boot and /efi. It could be also only /boot, but to change it this time, I'm going to do it on boot EFI and hit enter. Now we can mount VDA1 in here. So let's type in mount /dev/vda1/mnt/boot/efi and hit enter. There you go. Now we need to mount also our home partition, and for that we need to create the home directory. So let's type in mkdir vim/mnt/home and hit enter. And now we can mount VDA4 in here. So mount /dev/VDA4 and /mnt/home and hit enter. There you go. So lsblk, and there we go. We have our mount points there. We don't need to mount a swap partition. It doesn't have to be mounted anywhere. So let's go ahead now and basically install the base packages we need for Arch. So let's type in pacstrap/mnt, and the packages I'm going to install are base and also Linux -firmware. Provide some extra firmware for your machine. I'm going to install also Vim, my editor. And because this virtual machine is using an AMD processor, I'm going to install also AMD-U codes. You can install Intel-U code if you have an Intel processor, of course. And then we can go ahead and hit enter. So this is going to take some time now to download and install the packages. So I'll be back with you guys in a sec. There you go. The packages are now installed, so we can clean up the terminal. And now the next step is to generate the file system table for the machine. So we can type in gen fstab -U because we want to use the UUIDs of the partitions, and then /mnt. So we are using basically the mount points we have on the machine right now, and we are going to put these into /mnt/etc/fstab. So we're going to basically write those mount points into the fstab file, which will make sure that when we boot the machine, the mount points will be basically read. So then we can hit enter. And we can now move into our new installation by typing in arch-root/mnt and hit enter. There you go. Now we have to do some housekeeping. So let's begin with the time zone. So to find the time zone here, you can use the timedate-ctl command. So for example, I can type in timedate-ctl and then list-time zones. And then I'm going to use the pipe symbol here and the grep function to narrow down the search for the city closest to my time zone, which is Zurich. And then I hit enter. And that's what I get. So that's the one I need to put into the system. You can repeat the process for another time zone, of course. So to do this, we can type in ln-sf. So we're going to create a symbolic link from /usr/share/zoneinfo/Europe/Zurich, the time zone I just found. And we're going to link this to /etc/local time and hit enter. Now we can synchronize the two clocks, so the hardware clock and the system clock. So let's type in hwclock --sys2hc. And now we can work on our locales. So we can type in vim/etc/locale.gen. This is the file where we have all our locales, and we need to select the ones we want to use. So I'm going to look for English US, and I'm going to select the one which has the extension UTF-8, which is right here. There you go. And we can save the file and exit Vim. And now we can generate the locales by typing in locale-gen and hit enter. And this is done. There you go. So now we need to put the string here also into the locale.com file. So we have two ways to do this. We can use the echo command or the Vim editor. It doesn't matter. The last time you used the echo command, this time I'm going to use Vim. So we can type in vim/etc/locale.conf and hit enter. And I'm going to type in here lang equal en_us.utf-8. There you go. And we can save the file and exit Vim. And now, because I'm not using a US keyboard, I need to also define my keyboard layout in the vconsole.com file. So for this, I'm going to type in vim/etc/vconsole.conf and hit enter. And I'm going to type in here keymap equal the key map I'm using, so de_ch-latin1. And then we can save the file and exit Vim. There you go. Next, we need to give a name to our loved machine here. So this time I'm going to use the echo command. So let's type in echo, and I'm going to call this machine Arch511 because it's using the kernel 5.11. And I'm going to append this information to /etc/hostname and hit enter. There you go. Now we need to work on the hosts file. So to do this, we need to use Vim. So let's type in vim/etc/hosts and hit enter. Now we go at the end of the line here. And let me remove this comment. And the first parameter is the IPv4 address of the local host, so 127.0.0.1 tab and then localhost, and then colon 1 tab again localhost. This is the IPv6, and in the last line 127.0.1.1, and then our host name, so arch511 for me dot local domain, a tab again and again arch511. This is again our host name. So we can then save the file and exit Vim. And there we go. Now we can give a password to our root user. So let's type in passwd, and then we can type in our new password and retype it. And there you go. So now it's time to install some extra packages for the system. So let's type in pacman-s. I'm going to install grep, our bootloader, and also EFI boots mgr. And for the network manager, I'm going to install network manager. And also network-manager-applet in case I need that later. I'm going to install also dialog. These are all networking packages. I'm going to install also mtools and DOS fstools, two packages for fat file system for working with fat file systems. And I'm going to install also WPA_supplicants for the Wi-Fi. And then let's see what we can install. We can install Git and Reflector because I want to have it in the system. I want to install also bash-completion. It's going to help me out with completion of commands in my new system. And we can install also base-devel and also Linux-headers, two development packages which I'm going to use all the time. And let's install some packages also for the Bluetooth adapter. So one is Blues, and the other one is blues-utils. You can install also cups, the printing system. I'm going to install also HPlib. This is if you have HP printer, is going to help you out with drivers. We're going to install also xdg-utils and also xdg-user-dirs for home directories. I'm going to install also rsync because otherwise Reflector won't work with that. We are going to install also inet utils because there are some utilities to work with the hostname and other stuff which I always need. I'm going to use also DNS utils for managing my DNS. I'm going to use also nfs-utils for my NFS shares. I'm going to use also gvfs and also gvfs-smb for the Samba shares. I'm not sure the -smb is already included in the first package there, but I'm just gonna type it in case. I'm gonna install also OpenSSH, and I'm gonna go ahead and install also the video drivers because there is a step that I will show you afterwards that we need to do. So in my case though, I don't need to actually install a video driver because it's a virtual machine. But if you are installing this on a laptop or on a desktop with an AMD processor, you can install actually xf86-video-AMD GPU. If you have an Intel processor, so here it really depends on the desktop environment then you would like to install afterwards. In most cases though, you can install actually the x86-video-Intel driver, which is the open source driver for Intel cards. But with some desktop environments, it does actually have some issues. So if you have an Intel card, you can also not install this driver and the system is going to use the mode setting driver, which comes already installed. And that's going to have probably less issues with your desktop environments. But if you have an AMD card, you can install the AMD GPU driver that I showed you before. And if you have an NVIDIA card, you can install, of course, the NVIDIA package and also the NVIDIA-utils. And you can install also NVIDIA settings if you want. This is going to do it for the latest cards. If you have older cards, you'll then have to install drivers from the AUR for which I have actually a video on the channel that you can look if you need to do that. In my case though, I don't need to, but I'm going to show you afterwards why I recommend you to install the drivers right now. So I think for this is going to be enough. So I'm just going to hit enter here and accept all the defaults and then hit enter to proceed with the installation. Now this again is going to take some time to download and install the packages. So I'll be back with you guys when it's done. So here we go, the packages are installed. Let's clean up the terminal. I'm going to show you now something a little bit different than usual, because some of you also in the comments and on my main machine as well, actually since a couple of weeks, if I don't do this step, the machine won't boot the graphical environment. So the thing is, we need to actually add, if you're using an AMD card especially, but you can do it as well if you have an NVIDIA card or an Intel card, we need to put actually one parameter into the modules part of the mkinitcpio.com file. So to edit that file, we need to type in vim/etc/mkinitcpio.conf. We go down to the modules here, and we need to put into the modules the video card we are using. So for example, if you're using an AMD card, you can type in here AMD GPU, and then you can save the file and exit. If you have an Intel card, you can type in here i915 if you're using the Intel Open driver. If you're using the mod setting driver, you don't need to do this. And if you have an NVIDIA card, you can type in here NVIDIA, very simply. Then once you have done that, you can exit this file. Actually, I don't need to edit anything here, but I'm just gonna exit. And once you have done that, you can now type in mkinit cpio-p and then Linux. If you're using the Linux kernel, if you install Linux LTS, you will type it in here linux-lts. With this command, you will regenerate the image for the initram fs with this parameter, and then you will be able to boot graphically, basically. So this is something that it's actually happened also to me, and that's why I wanted to mention it here. Now, the next step is to install the grub bootloader, otherwise we won't be able to boot our system. So let's type in grub-install --target. So the first parameter is the target. The target is x86_64-EFI. And the second parameter, -EFI-directory equal /boot/EFI. This is the directory that I chose during the mounting, if you remember at the beginning of the video. And the last parameter is --bootloader-id equal grub. There you go. So then we can hit enter. It's going to take a second to install. There you go. And now we can generate the configuration file for grub by typing in grub-mkconfig-o, and that's going to be /boot/grub/grub.cfg and hit enter. It's going to take a second to do that as well. There you go. So I'm going to do one edit to the grub file. You don't need to do this probably, but I'm going to do it because it's on a virtual machine. So I'm going to type in vim/etc/default/grub. And I'm going to append basically the video parameter that I showed you at the beginning of the video to make sure that grub picks up the correct resolution here of the display. So 1920 x 1080. And I'm going to save this file and exit and regenerate one more time the configuration file for grub. There you go. So now we need to enable some services that we installed before. So let's do this by typing in system ctl enable network manager. That's gonna do it. That means when we start the machine after reboot, we're gonna have internet already available. And we can hit enter here. We can pull up the last command here and replace network manager also with Bluetooth and hit enter. I'm gonna do the same thing for CUPS, our printing system. I'm gonna do the same for SSH for the service, which is SSHD. And I want to also actually enable the reflector timer so that when we boot the machine, it's going to basically refresh my mirrors regularly with the timer. So to do this, I'm going to actually pull up the last command here, and I'm going to replace SSHD here with reflector.timer and hit enter. And if you have an SSD, very important step, you can replace also this and enable fstrim.timer so that your SSD is going to be trimmed for best performance. And then we can hit enter also. There you go. So now we can add a user to the system. This is also a very important step because you don't want to mess up with the root user all the time. So we can type in user add -m capital G will, and then the username, in my case, Hermano. So this command basically adds the username Hermano, the user Hermano with the M switch, which gives him a home directory, and the capital G is going to give Hermano a supplementary group, which is the will group, which has to do with the sudo privileges that we will configure in a second. Next, pass wd hermano to give a password to this user. And I'm gonna type in my new password and retype it. Now let's work on the sudo privileges for this user. So let's type in sudo and hit enter. What we can do here, we can scroll down with Control F and look for the first will group, which has the line all equal all. We're going to uncomment this file here, and then we can save this file and exit Vim. And now Hermano will have sudo privileges when we reboot the machine. So this is basically done for the base install. So what we're going to do now, we're going to type in exit and umount -a, and we can basically reboot the machine. So let's type in reboot and hit enter. And if everything went well, we will be greeted by the grub bootloader. And there you go. Here we are on the grub bootloader. So we can just boot. It doesn't actually took really 1 second. So we can basically here also enter my name and the password. And we are logged into our new system. So a couple of things before we continue the installation. I want to actually change the fonts. And so to do this, I need to install a font, which I could have actually installed before as well. So let's type in sudo pacman -s and then terminus -font and hit enter. Need to enter my sudo password here and proceed with install. Now I can type in set font, then -132n. There you go. And if I type in actually a command correctly, it's even better. So set font, there you go. So now we can clean up the terminal. So first thing, I want to make sure again to use the fastest packages. So I'll type in sudo reflector. You can see now also the bash completion is already working. C, and then for country, it's Switzerland again. -a, again, 6 hours, --sort, rate, so we are sorting by speed, and then --save, /etc, pacman.d, and then mirror list. I do this a little bit quicker because I want to concentrate also on the packages for the BSPWM window manager. If you want to see just base installs without desktop environments, you can see on the channel I have other monthly installs where I concentrate more on the packages and on the commands. So let's hit enter here, and it's going to take a second to create a mirror list. And again, because we enable the timer, it's going to then refresh it. I think it's like every 7 days. So there we go. This is the base install. So next we can proceed by installing our window manager and the packages we need for that. Now let's type in sudo pacman-s. So we can install Xwork. Now we don't need to install the whole Xwork group, but I'm going to make it simple here because it contains also several fonts and I want to make sure to have those as well. But you don't have to actually install the whole Xwork group. You can install only some of the packages, and I recommend you also to check the Arch Wiki where it tells you actually what you could install and what you actually don't need to install if you really don't need that package. But I'm going to make it easy here and install all the Xwork group package. And then we are going to install BSPWM. And I'm going to install also SXHKD. I always take time to pronounce this word. It's always difficult to spell it out. And then we can install the menu. We can install a terminal. I'm going to choose Terminator. I like Terminator. And then what we can install the display manager. So I'm going to install LightDM. This is actually one of the display manager which is really flexible and I really like it. We need to install a greeter for that. So let's type in LightDM -GTK. I'm going to install the GTK greeter -greeter. And I'm going to install also the settings for this. So LightDM-GTK-greeter-settings. There you go. Bash completion is working well. And we can install also the nitrogen package. And we can install also LX appearance. I'm going to install also PyCom, our compositor. And I'm going to install Nautilus for the file browser. And let's see what else we can install. I think it's going to do it for now. So we can just hit enter here and accept all the defaults. And then we can proceed with the installation. There you go. So this is not going to take long because it's only 100 megabytes to install. So it should actually take really just literally a couple of seconds. There you go. The download is already finished. And now it's installing the packages for the window manager. There you go. So now we are going to follow always the Arch Wiki, which is our source of information here. So BSPWM is installed, and we need to still activate the display manager. Actually, let's do that first. Let's type in sudo systemctl enable LightDM and hit enter. There you go. So let's go ahead now and configure BSPWM before we can start it basically. So we need to actually port over some configuration files that we have already in the system because we just installed the packages into our home directory. But we need to create first two directories. So let's type in mkdir-p, gonna wanna create two directories, .config, this is already existing in our home directory. I wanna create first the BSPWM directory and also the sxhkd directory, and then closing the curly braces here and then hit enter. There you go. So we created those two directories, and now we can copy over the files that we have in our examples directory into these two directories there. So to do this, we need to type in install -dm755, and that's because actually because the BSPWMRC file that we have in our example directory is actually a script. So we need to also activate here the permissions, and then /user/share/doc/bspwm/examples/bspwmrc, and we are going to copy this under /config/bspwm, and the file is going to be called basically bspwmrc. So I'm just going to let the name as it is. And next, we are going to pull up the last command here, but we're not going to repeat it exactly the same because this has actually different permissions. Instead of 755 is 644. And the file we need to copy over is not the bspwmrc this time, but it's the sxhkdrc file, which we are going to copy into our sxhkd directory. So let's do that. There you go. So before we reboot the machine once, let's check the configuration of the sxrc file, because there are some shortcuts that we need to, or some commands that we need to actually enter there. So let's type in vim.config/sx and then sxrc and hit enter. So as you can see here, by default, it's using the urxvt terminal, which I don't have actually installed. So I'm going to replace this with a Terminator. You can, of course, replace this with the terminal that you're using. And for that, actually, it's enough here. So we can actually exit this file and exit Vim. And I want to do also some changes into the BSPWMRC file. So vim.config/bspwm and then bspwmrc. And you can see there we have already one command on the top, which is going to start sxhkd. And I want to go under here and put some extra commands before we start the window manager. So let me go down here and I'm going to insert a couple of lines. So the first one is set xkbmap ch. So this is basically going to tell the system to load the Swiss keyboard in memory, because otherwise it's going to load with a US keyboard. This has nothing to do with the vconsole.com file. That's for the TTY. This is for the desktop environment. And the ampersand just to put it in the background. Next, I want to put also nitrogen -- restore, because in case I'm going to install a wallpaper, I want it to be back when we reboot basically the machine. And I'm going to use also PyCom, our compositor. So these three things I want them to be started with the window manager. So we can then save the file and exit. And I think I forgot to install actually a browser. So let's do that. Sudo pacman-s. I'm going to install Firefox here very quickly. Proceed with the installation. There you go. And now we can reboot our machine. So let's type in reboot and hit enter. And it's going to take a second here. We should be greeted by grub. There you go. And now we should be greeted by LightDM. And there you go. Here is LightDM. So let me enter my passwords. And we have a beautiful black screen. No worries. The terminal is working. Let's hit mod enter. And here we have Terminator. So let's enter again, mod enter here, mod enter again, and we have our terminal. So with mod W, which is the Windows key, we can close these windows here. And I can see already the compositor is working because the fading effect is working as well. So let me quickly configure here my terminal. I'm just going to take off here the window borders. I don't need them. I'm going to go under profile here. I'm going to change this to underline, take away the title bar icon here, no title bar. And for the background, I'm going to just go here for transparent. I'm going to do it so maybe 85%, that's good. And I don't want to have the scroll bar. There you go. So this is how it looks like. I could increase actually the font size, but this I can do it with the Mod Shift 1. There you go. So let's hit Mod Enter. We have the menu that is working. That's good. So we can actually search for Firefox, and Firefox is also there. Now let's install an Arch background. Let's type in sudo pacman-s arch linux-wallpaper and proceed with the password and proceed to install that. There you go. So now let's actually also maybe install two themes. So let's type in, so pull up the last command here and type in here materia-gtk-theme and also papyrus icon theme, and hit enter here. It's going to take a second because the icon theme is pretty big actually to install. There you go. And this is also done, should be done in a second. There you go. So mod space, LX appearance, and we can change the theme of our system here. Go with Materia Dark, and for the papyrus icons, there you go. And we can close this. And now let's open up also nitrogen, and let's go to preferences and add a directory. We're going to go under file system and user, share, and then backgrounds, and we are going to select the Arch Linux directory here and click select, and then click OK. So we have all the wallpapers that we just installed here. I'm going to choose this one right here, and I'm going to go for zone field, and full screen is fine. I just have one display here, and click apply. And we can close nitrogen, and you can see we have our wallpaper there with the transparency. So everything is working fine. So basically that's it. This is a basic install of Arch with the BSPWM window manager. This should be actually enough to get you going. If you want to install also the Polybar or something else, I have actually on the channel a few tutorials about Polybar, and I'm going to do another one in the future with a new configuration. So stay tuned for that. But this is gonna do it basically for the Arch install of the month of March for 2021 with the new ISO and the BSPWM window manager. If you have any question about the video, let me know in the comments below, guys. And if you want to support my work, you can actually do so by visiting the Patreon website to become a Patreon. By the way, I just want to also inform you that from this month, from the end of this month, if you are a Patreon, we will also do live webinars on Linux there with you guys live. So if you have also questions live, you can also come online and ask questions at the end of the webinar. So to become a Patreon is definitely an advantage. Or if you want, you can also donate via PayPal through my website as well. So thank you so much for watching the video, guys, and I'll see you very, very soon in the next one.